We would be honored if you would
All
join
right,
us.
everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dungeon Crawlers, where we have returned. The fish have been eaten, the bees, and, well, the sun is shining in some parts of the world. Maybe others it's not, but that's okay. We're back. The holidays are over. Some of us drank way too much eggnog. Some of us didn't drink any eggnog, and some of us may have consumed way too much sugar. Yeah, I'll admit that was me.
100% this guy.
Yeah, well, when you have 3 birthdays right after Christmas,
Right?
between Christmas and New Year's Eve, you're just destined to, unfortunately, consume way too much sugar. Which is really sad, because I used to enjoy getting a cheesecake for my birthday, and now at this point, I'm just like, I don't want any more sugar. Please go away.
Totally understand.
Can we maybe just have like a salad or something?
You mean like fruit salad?
Yes. Or fruit cake.
Well, hey, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, folks.
New Year 2020 is over. It is now 2021, which is really crazy because, the podcast was started in December of 2008. You do the math. I'm just going to leave it at that.
It was in 2008, so 13 years now. 13 years. Well, 12 years and change, right?
Yes.
There you go. This will be year 13.
This is year 13. Yes.
We are in our 13th year.
Yes, we're a teenager now.
And nobody understands us.
Yes. We're going through some changes. It's crazy.
You don't understand my fandom, Dad.
So are we just going to like randomly pitch shift the audio up and insert pops and squeaks for fun this year? Then?
Dude, totally. That could be so much fun.
Let's make that happen.
It's like,
And
I
then,
don't know what's going on.
and then 3/4 of the way through the year, we'll just base shift everything.
Yeah.
We'll call it the Wesley Crusher Season 1 effect.
Hey, welcome to Dungeon Crawlers. We're here to talk about something. No.
Now, for those of you who might be in that unfortunate category of still growing up, please understand, we commiserate. We were there. It is funny once you get past it.
Oh my God.
That is truth. Don't worry, it gets better.
It's like being a redhead, being a ginger. When you're a ginger and a little kid, it's like everyone wants to rub your head. It is the most annoying thing in the universe. But then you get to an age where you do it. A buddy of mine, he's a fellow ginger, and he did it to this one kid, and this kid looked at him like, do that again, and I'm gonna hit it in the crotch. And he's like, dude, it's okay. I was a ginger too. I had it happen to me. And he's like, the little kid just kind of looked at him, nodded his head like, you know my pain, and then walked off. So it's kind of like this. Yes, we know your pain. We know how it is when you're trying to say something really cool and awesome, and suddenly your voice cracks and goes, and maybe you're walking up and you're talking to that girl that you really like now. For some reason, she's gone from, hey, she was really cool to hang out with, to like, man, I really want to talk to her. You know what I mean? And then you go to say something and your voice cracks. You get super embarrassed and then run down the hall. We've been there. We've
all been there.
Yes.
That's what makes Dungeon Crawlers a special place. We understand each other. We are your people.
Yes. And it's kind of like games, You're excited for a game. You spend the money, you get it, you open up the box and you go to play it and you're like, oh man, this really was disappointing. Sometimes that happens.
The other good news for all of you out there is that you are, in fact, the pretty person that we want to talk to.
Oh, yes.
Every day.
Yes.
Wow.
So
At least
guess
every week.
what? Doesn't matter. You're just that awesome. So this intro has gone on really long. This became a diatribe.
Is this still the intro?
I don't know. Is it? I kind of got lost there. Anyways, so we're back. It's 2021. We're excited to have you. A lot of cool things have happened. As we mentioned, we got a Discord server up and running. We have some awesome people that have already answered the call and are on there.
Heck yes. In fact, actually, we put out a quick poll. You might remember one of our last episodes of 2020. We were asking, hey, this year has sucked, but there has to be some silver lining somewhere. And we asked the question, what is your favorite new fandom, a game, book, or other nerdtastic discovery that you made during 2020? And we got some responses. In fact, I want to call a few of these out. Rogue428 said that one of his favorite shows, Robin of Sherwood, has brand new episodes available as audio dramas. And I don't know about you, but I really appreciate radio drama style audio episodes. They're so good.
And I appreciate Rogue, because Rogue is actually is Mike Haspel, who's been on the show before.
Yes.
If you've listened to the Kroll episode, that is author Mike Haspel.
Friend of the show.
Yes, and if you haven't picked up his book, man, you really need to. It's really awesome. It's got vampires, it's got mummies, it's got a little, and the main character is a mummy, and he's a detective in modern day. It's pretty awesome. You gotta pick it up. Yeah.
We also had a comment from Dalbus Gumbledore, and it says that they really enjoyed playing Star Wars Fallen Order last year, which is fantastic because that game really was excellent. For having had such a famine of respectable Star Wars games for years now, having Jedi Fallen Order hit the shelves and having played through that myself, that was excellent. As a Star Wars fan, the story was absolutely excellent. Really love that. If you love Star Wars and you have the ability to play video games, get that game, play it. It's excellent.
No, I really enjoyed it. I like the aspect that they mixed in with the oh man, my mind is running blank now. They're all wearing black and you see them in Rebels. And they have this spinny lightsabers. Man, I'm sounding horrible today.
Let's see. Are you talking about like the Zabrakians, the Colts?
No, not the Colts. They're trained by Vader to go after and hunt Jedi.
Oh, isn't it like the droids?
No, not the droids.
Oh, okay.
Like the Sixth, huh?
The Inquisitors.
The Inquisitors. That's what it is. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. What the heck?
I don't know why I couldn't remember that.
I really desperately wanted to let you just come to your own realization, but I realized the bit's been dragging on. So.
I know.
A bit. This is a bit.
Man, this is horrible. This is what happens. No, the Inquisitors. I really like how they put in the Inquisitors. This is probably the first time we've ever really seen Kashyyyk ever in lots of detail.
Well, I mean, we did see Kashyyyk quite a bit in The Force Unleashed. But I think you're right that Fallen Order gave us additional detail and we got to explore it in a way that we've never been able to in any previous game.
But wasn't that Force Unleashed 2 that we saw Kashyyyk?
No, I think it was Force Unleashed 1. I think it was 1.
I'll have to double check that. It's been that long since I played that game, so yeah.
Yeah. But you're all up like in the tree houses, you're all up in the tree villages. You're not.
Oh, that's right.
You don't get to like
you don't go on the ground and go into the dark. You
don't get to see like different biomes, right? And in Fallen Order, you get to see a little bit of everything. You get some water, you get some underground, you get some trees, and
some giant bugs that want to eat you.
Ugh. But yes, that game is fantastic. The game is fantastic. So thank you very much, Dalbus Gumbledore, for chiming in on that one. I'm glad that you had a chance to play that during 2020.
Yes.
And of course, those of you, just so you guys know what we're doing here, we will be giving a call to action pretty much every episode. And we will post those in the Discord server. So join the Discord server. It's free. And then you get to chime in on the topics that matter to us. And we get to find out what topics matter to you.
Yeah.
Because you're part of the show.
And you get to be part of the community. You get to be actively engaging in what's going on, helping us to not only hear your thoughts and opinions and the things that you'd like to see and talk about, but also help to really be part of it, be part of what we do and who we are. And even though you've always been in our hearts, this is your chance to be in our Discord server.
Yes. And, when we have upcoming interviews of authors and people, we're going to put that out there so that you can throw out some questions, because we want to know what questions you want asked. And then, maybe, just maybe, your question will be asked.
And as a thank you to everybody who is taking the time to join us early, we have gotten a couple of gift cards from Mythos Games that we're going to be giving out to a couple of the early joiners in the server, but we also have a raffle for the first 100 people who join the server, in which we're going to have some additional prizes. So make sure to pay attention to that and check it out each week.
Absolutely. And a big thank you to Mythos for that one. They volunteered those gift cards. We did not go panhandling for that one. That one was given to us as a show of support for the show. So thank you, Mythos. So, 2020 sucked. 2021 inevitably is filled with potential and promise and hope, right? 2021 gives us an opportunity here to kind of swing things into the positive direction. Now, as 2020 was closing, we went into our winter hiatus. We went on winter break, and just in keeping contact with each other, we found that we had discovered and some things over the winter break, or we had enjoyed some things that we hadn't seen before. And we thought, what a great way to kick off the year by calling out some of the cool things that we did or that we discovered or that we enjoyed right at the end of 2020 to kick off 2021 in the right direction. So Alton, what were some of the cool things that you did or experienced or discovered during the winter break?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, a ton of games that have come out over the course of the year that I've been really wanting to get into. Lots of board gaming, a little bit of time exploring some new RPG systems, as well as working on my own, which was a lot of fun. But the other really, really big one, you all have heard me talk about this before. You know it. If you don't love it, you need to try it. Twilight Imperium, the expansion, did in fact come out, and it is chock full of awesome content. And a huge thank you to my coworkers in particular, who found out that the copy that I had ordered for myself was not going to arrive until at least the end of March, and called out to like 40 or 50 game stores across the country trying to find a copy, found one among the 20 plus people who responded in the first 24 hours, got it shipped out to me and surprised me with it. It was fantastic. So much new content. And the other thing that's really, really beautiful about it is that it does exactly what I believe an expansion should do, which is increase the amount of things that you can do without overcomplicating or overextending the rule set and gameplay to the point that it is either unrecognizable or that it's no longer reasonable to play.
Right.
A lot of times expansions add additional content, but they also add a lot of additional weight that makes it hard to be able to introduce to new players, but that also adds a lot of playtime and makes it too difficult to really take on and enjoy in a good piecemeal way. And Twilight Imperium is already a chunky, bulky game with a lot of moving parts, a lot of deep strategy, even though the rule set is relatively simple. But it does just take time because there's a lot of interactions between players. The expansion, Prophecy of Kings, did an excellent job of helping everybody get their early game engines started more quickly, which means that you're able to get deeper into your strategies and the strengths of your particular factions as you zip across the galaxy. It really, I cannot speak highly enough about it. There are a lot of little details that they paid attention to in the way that they produced all of the additional content and upgraded errata and cards and things like that that have turned this game up to 11. It was already great. It was already my favorite game of all time. With the expansion, there's so much more to take in. And on top of that, they've announced monthly content going forward for tournament play, where they'll be rolling out specialized maps and additional upgrade cards that you can add and things like that. So I'm hoping that it's really going to turn into something fantastic.
That sounds amazing. I've never played Twilight Imperium, so I think that's something that you're going to have to help fix in my life.
Just
Absolutely.
imagine Risk in space with lots of laser cannons and spaceships and wormholes.
Sweet. I've never played Risk.
That's dumbing it down.
That really is, though. You know, the way my short button when I'm describing it to people is that It is Space Risk on steroids, but it's not about the combat. You
Nice.
have to maintain a military presence, and you can technically win by eliminating your opponents. However, it's a 4X game with achievement point system. And so because of that, just attacking on its own is a difficult path to victory. There's also politics and trade, things that are very important, exploration and being able to upgrade technologies, managing really a civilization and how it interacts with the other civilizations at the table is what leads players to victory.
Nice.
And so because of that, you don't have to be somebody who sits there and crunches numbers and tries to figure out the optimal tactics of how many ships do I need to move into this system to win, if you are willing to pay attention to what's going on at the table and work with other people to further everybody's goals, but mostly yours.
Nice.
And that turns it into a really fun game. A lot of nice politicking and a really good time.
So that was Twilight Imperium. That was probably the brightest star in the center of your winter vacation universe. Any other really awesome experiences during the winter break?
Yeah, like I said, I had some cool opportunities to be able to work on a number of RPG systems, one of my own, as well as consulting with a couple of other people, which has been fantastic, being able to get in and really get into the chunks of game design. But the other thing that was really fun on top of it was that Mythos, who gave away the gift cards at the beginning of the stream here, was able to receive an exemption from the health department to be able to run events without having to pre-clear them ahead of time.
Yes,
which means that as long as we're, following COVID procedures, everybody still has to be masked and there's a check-in process and things like that. But it's meant that we've been able to participate in a lot of really cool events there. One of which is starting a West March style campaign, which is for anybody who hasn't played a lot of RPGs or particularly a West March style campaign. Usually big campaigns are based on linear storytelling, right? Where you have a plot that you're following and you've got to get to the next step before you can get any further. And even if there are minor side quests and things like that, it's always in service of the end directive. But a West March style campaign is very unique in that it is chronologically based and geographically based, not necessarily a strict throughput storyline that you have to follow. And so because of that, we're able to coordinate with players and DMs any day of the week. People can come in and participate in the campaign because you're choosing portions of this new continent that's opened up to explore. And as you do, everything that happens during that one shot gets recorded, and at the end of the week the DMs all get together, coordinate all of those details of what happened over the week, and post a summary of everything that's gone on in the world and brings everybody up to date, which is really fun because in a situation like right now where we can only have so many people at a table at a time and people get sick and people have work and there's all kinds of different things that come up, even though it relies upon good GMs being able to coordinate with each other and produce meaningful story elements in every session, it also provides a lot of flexibility and really interesting exploration of being able to play with different players and different DMs and see different styles, but also to be able to contribute to that overall story in a meaningful way.
That sounds excellent.
Those are probably the biggest things from my break. I'm sure there are some other common items that we'll talk about a little bit further on. But Krebs, what's going on with you?
Oh man, I'm gonna do my best to keep this as succinct as I can because I actually kind of had a deluge of really cool nerdtastic things happen. I got a PS5 when it launched, and I've been really enjoying it. I've mentioned that on the show before. During the break, I was like, there are certain games I have to finish. They've been in my backlog for a while. I got to finish them. Number one on that list was The Last of Us 2. I've had that game since Father's Day. I started playing it on Father's Day, and it was such an emotional commitment, and it took so much investment to get through that I kept putting it off. And finally, I was like, no, I'm going to finish this story before I see any more spoilers because I kept seeing those. And so I finished it. And it was by far one of the best games I've ever played, and most certainly deserving of the Game of the Year awards it's been winning. In fact, I saw an article the other day said that that game, Last of Us 2, had won over 200 different Game of the Year awards, and I totally get it. There have been a number of people who have been making their 15 minutes of fame out of bashing on this game, either the way that the game was made, like the process by which it was made, or the way that the story was told, or the story decisions that occurred, and in truth, as I look back on it retrospectively, understanding everything that's in the game now, I realize I'm not going to say everybody, because some people just have differing opinions, and that's okay. But it is my personal opinion that the vast majority of the people who have been trashing on this game for its story and for the decisions that director Neil Druckmann made, these are people who lack emotional maturity, because this game forces you to experience very specific human emotions, very specific real world conflict in yourself while you're playing a simulation of an event that never happened. This game, it feels insulting to call it a game. We have other terms for movies. We have, like, you have flick when it's just, garbage popcorn entertainment type stuff. You've got movie when it's kind of middle of the road or ambiguous. And then you've got film when it crosses that line into art. And this experience is exactly that. It is an experience, not just a video game, not just something you play. It's something you experience. So Last of Us 2, phenomenal. Absolutely spectacular. And anyone who has the opportunity to experience that title honestly should make the effort to do so. In addition to that, I finished the Spider-Man Miles Morales PS5 game. The best way I can describe it is exactly as good as the first game, just with a new context, new character. So it is a worthy successor to the first title. It is a wonderful experience in itself, also available for PS4 and PS5. And then I started discovering a bunch of stuff. I finished a book that I was reading. It was a military drama called Tier 1. Really enjoyed that. But then my wife for Christmas got me Ready Player 2, and I started reading that. And just like, similar to Miles Morales and Spider-Man, Ready Player 2 has the same voice, the same humor, the same pacing as Ready Player 1, but now with new and identifiable context. And it's an intriguing story. I'm about 100 pages into it now. Absolutely loving Ready Player 2 as much as I loved Ready Player 1. And I was really worried I wouldn't. I was really nervous it would not be as good. But no, it absolutely lives up to the first book's stature. And then I started discovering a whole bunch of board games, tabletop games. I've been playing Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, which is an app-driven player cooperative game. Yes, mwah. That's right. It is wonderful. I'm having a hard time finding the expansion, as you well know, Alton. It's like impossible to find right now because it's so good. They can't keep it on shelves, and they can't keep it anywhere. Awesome, fantastic. Similar in that ilk is I finally, after years of waiting, I finally pulled the trigger and got Star Wars Imperial Assault. It is in terms of development, a predecessor to Journeys in Middle-earth. And so Journeys in Middle-earth has some improvements, but same idea, app-driven scenario with cooperative playtime, which my wife and I adore. I've been playing a board game called Dice Forge, where you're competing with each other to be the next chosen demigod in the pantheon. And you do this by taking a pair of 6-sided dice where every face is interchangeable, and you use your resources to buy more powerful die faces to earn more points before the end of the game. And once you know what you're doing, that game plays in like 20 minutes or less. I got the expansion for it for Christmas, and that one is awesome. It does exactly what you were talking about, Alton, where it adds quality and value to the game without making the game untenable or unmanageable. And I also, for Christmas, got Zombie 15. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but I'm a big fan of a little board game called Zombicide.
Wait, you like zombies
Yeah, I don't know if you knew that.
and Zombicide?
Yeah, it's this board game. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh,
I know
yeah.
it's almost like unheard of. But I'm super into Zombicide, and this game is very Zombicide-esque. It is scenario-driven, cooperative, modular board, very much like Zombicide, except that you play the game listening to a soundtrack that is exactly 15 minutes long. And in that soundtrack, there will be cues for spawning zombies. When that happens, you stop everything you're doing, spawn the zombies, resolve that, continue your turn. But you have to meet your goal in the 15 minutes before the music ends. If the music ends and you have not reached your goal, you lose. And I have to tell you, it is so much fun to play as a family, but it puts both my children on like the edge of their anxiety thresholds. When we're done, they're like, oh my gosh, we did it. But then they're like super amped for like the next hour. That's because they can't come down from that excitement. It's super great
Love
game.
it.
Love it. And some other card games I got into, some other board games I checked out, but these are sort of like the highlights. It was a deluge of discovery. I just started playing Control for PlayStation. I know that's an older title, but by these standards, but that game is blowing my mind with how fantastic it is. It's almost a sleeper in some respects. I heard it was good. I did not realize how good it was until I started playing it, and now I realize just what a treasure it is. So I can go on and on and on and on and on. Had a wonderful, wonderful winter break, discovering things that brought me joy despite the garbage of 2020. Daniel, what was the silver lining in your 2020 cloud? What did you discover during the winter break?
No, I've been thinking about this. So I had a couple things. So first off, I have all the expansions for Imperial Assault except for
we
one.
have to play.
Except for one, and that
Which one are you missing?
Which is the Lothal one. So
Tyrants of
Lothal.
Tyrants of Lothal. It's at Mythos, so
it is. It's
the only one I'm missing. Great game. I love it. I've been painting all the minis. Yeah. So for me, there's actually two games that I got that I've been really enjoying. The first one is Mysterium.
Good choice.
Very much like Clue, but the ghost can't talk to you. It has to show images. And
how many games of that have you played so far?
How many? About 4.
Nice.
And so I've been playing with a good buddy of mine and his family, and we've determined that his son sucks at being the ghost. And I think I did pretty good. It's a fun game. I like the dichotomy in it where the ghost is trying to communicate to you who the murderer is, what room, what weapon, but they're doing it through the imagery of the cards, and it's totally random. And you have to kind of determine how best to convey this message using those cards. So that's really fun. Another one I picked up, which is a callback to my childhood, which is Fireball Island.
Classic.
Yes, I love it. I've been playing it with my kids.
How's the reboot?
It's actually been pretty good. I've enjoyed it.
Do they still have like the vacuum form island?
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
That makes me so happy.
And you still put it together, and everything still shifts around. It's the only thing I don't like is the cardboard helicopter and the cardboard maw. So, but I found some prints, so I'm going to 3D print those so
nice.
That I can just put those together, because I just worry about, because you can't put it back together in the box. You got to undo it, and I just worry every time that cardboard's going to get mashed up. But
yeah,
otherwise, it's fantastic. It's lots of fun. Yes, my younger kids don't quite get the point to it, but they like running around and then throwing fireballs down and stuff like that. But it's still just as fun as when I was a kid. I got a couple Transformers. Those people that don't know, Transformers are my Rubik's Cubes.
Wait a minute, you like Transformers?
Yes, I do. I got another Optimus Prime and another Starscream, which is really funny because as a kid, I never owned a single Decepticon in my life. It was such a tragedy. I love the Autobots, so that's all I had was Autobots.
I didn't realize you didn't own any Decepticons. I didn't
As
know
a
that.
kid, none. I didn't have any Decepticons.
Was that coincidental or was that like a parent thing?
No, that was just me. I never asked for any of them. I always thought Megatron looked really dumb when you transformed him. With the trigger there pointing out of his crotch. It just looked weird. But now as I've gotten older, I have a Megatron. I have an old classic Starscream. I now have a Cybertron version Starscream. So that was awesome.
That's so cool.
One of my favorite Decepticons I still have never gotten. I've never had one is Soundwave.
Yeah.
I know they're going to be releasing a new one with the new cartoon series on Netflix, but I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, so that's another thing I watched over the break is the new Earthrise season 2 of the Transformer trilogy that's on Netflix. So that was enjoyable and interesting. And there was some interesting things that they threw in there. So
nice.
Yeah. And then, since it was pretty low key, Mandalorian had to wrap up that.
Oh, Mando season 2. Warning, this will take up the rest of the episode.
So, not as epic as some of the things you guys have had, but it was still enjoyable. So
No, the rest of the season of Mandalorian was pretty epic. And this is the fair warning again to anybody out there who is trying to keep themselves spoiler free and has somehow resisted the urge to just finish it out. Finish it out. We will forgive you, then come back and press play. Because
yes, please.
Holy cow. Dan, yes. I need to know that last episode, where were you at emotionally?
Emotionally, I know a lot of people came to tears. In the end, I didn't cry, but I was giddy as a kid. It brought back so much joy and happiness. I still remember the feelings, what it was like watching Empire Strikes Back. What it was like watching Return of the Jedi and seeing Luke with his lightsaber and jumping around as a Jedi Knight. And that final confrontation with Darth Vader, I really feel that we finally got the Luke we deserved.
Yes.
7, 8, and 9, we did not get a Luke Skywalker that was worthy of anything, in my opinion. His character made zero sense to me. Here is an individual that through all of the, after finding out who his father is, goes against everyone in the galaxy saying he is beyond reach. He is beyond saving. This is the most vicious, darkest, evilest individual in the entire known galaxy. And yet you want to save him? I'm sorry. That's a pipe dream. And yet he still says, there's good in him. I can feel it. I know it. Yeah. And he goes. I mean, this is a speck of goodness that he feels and goes and fights against the Emperor and redeems his dad. And yet in these films, there's a speck of possibility that his nephew is going to go dark. And he goes to kill him. What the heck? And yes, I get it. He there's a moment he goes, oh crap, what am I doing? And then of course Ben freaks out. And then he goes and cuts himself off from the Force. What?
Yeah.
Come on. He got his hand lopped off after failing to fight Darth Vader. Drops down a huge pit and then still comes back to try to save his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, last year we had a really intense talk, a couple of episodes, if I recall correctly, about ways that we could have fixed the script in 7-8 to try to help assuage some of the problems that were there. But to be completely frank, what we saw at the end of Mandalorian is the way that Luke should have entered the picture to begin with.
This is
Oh,
the
yeah.
way.
Yes.
It's just what it should have been. And on my side, and this is kind of a sign of how jaded I've become, I suppose. I didn't dare hope. As
Yeah.
I watched the X-Wing come in and I see the little R2 unit, I'm like, okay. And then, he's facing away from the camera and you see the lightsaber come out. So it's a single lightsaber. So, okay. But, there's no way. And then
it's still black and white on the monitor.
Yeah. And every additional shot that establishes and just slowly eases Luke back into existence. The first time I watched the episode, I was just incredulous more than anything else. Absolutely did not want to hope for it until it was all said and done.
Yeah.
Because I was just waiting for the boot to drop and I was prepared to be hurt again. But then after it was done, it was like all of the anxiety in my body just released. And then the second time I watched it, I cried because that type of hope, that calm, persistent confidence, like an excellent analogous scene, not one-to-one of course, but very similar, is the Darth Vader hallway scene in Rogue One, right?
Yes.
Like this is the antithesis to that, but they both establish the same thing, which is what is the driving energy behind this character. Both of these characters at their prime right now are virtually unstoppable forces.
Yes.
Right. But where we saw all of the fear and the anger and the I'm just here to kill everybody and take everything down and nothing between me and my goal from Vader, on the opposite side of things, now we see Luke showing up. And even in the way that he holds himself, the way that he works through everything that's going on, there's just this calm, peaceful reassurance. Not that there's no weakness in it, but it is very much just being one with what's going on and really moving towards an inevitability because that's the way of things, not because I'm forcing it to be so. And that even just the blocking and the way that he was represented physically on the screen really, really warms the cold hockles of my heart.
100% agree. My experience was like a perfect combination of your two experiences. When I'm sitting there, I'm watching what's going on. There were some things in the episode that I had called not particularly mind-blowing, but the what are those things called? The terror troopers when they're
Dark Troopers.
Dark troopers, excuse me, thank you. Yeah, when the dark troopers are airlock ejected into space, I was like, they don't need to breathe and they have jets, they're gonna be back. And sure enough, here they come. But they did such a great job. Favreau and Filoni did such an amazing job establishing just how genuinely awful one dark trooper is, let alone a platoon. And then, we get to this situation where it's like, well, they're breaking through blast doors. What are we going to do? And then here comes this X-Wing banking around. And I was like, Alton, I didn't dare to hope. My very first reaction was, oh, maybe it's Ahsoka. They've already established her for the episode. And, if there's one thing Jedi love, it's flying X-Wings. So yeah, that could work. And then as it was docking, like as they look on the monitor and the X-Wing is parking, my brain immediately switched and it was like, wait a second. It could be Luke. I thought this show happens just a handful of years after Return of the Jedi. This could be young Luke. This could be Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker. And I thought, no, don't hope for it. But out loud, I said that it might be Luke. And then we get that black and white image of him in his cloak walking through the docking bay, and I'm like, well, Ahsoka has a cloak like that too. I don't know. Then he gets in the hallway and it's still black and white, so you see one lightsaber, but it could be white, doesn't have to be green. And my brain was just fighting. It was just like, oh, don't hope. But I was like literally physically on the edge of my seat, and I was getting that giddy childlike feeling. I saw Return of the Jedi in theaters in 1983 before I was 5 years old, and I remember it is still in my brain. And I remember watching Luke Skywalker when he was about to be thrown into the Sarlacc pit, and instead he does like a half twist, propels himself upward, catches the lightsaber from R2 and goes to town. And I had that childhood moment again. And as I'm watching, and then they cut to the shot where he's in the hallway, and it's not the security camera, and there's color, and there's that green lightsaber blade just screaming as he's thrashing through the troopers, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's freaking Luke. And I'm just like losing my mind. I was like yelling out, I was like, ah, yes. And I was just like freaking out. My kids were like, yeah, Dad, it's Luke. What? Why are you so excited? And I'm like, you don't understand what I've been through. And then we just like, we're watching the scene, and he's just phenomenal. He's the best Luke we've ever seen. And he finally gets to that moment where he gets to the doorway of the bridge, and Din turns around and says, open the door. And they open the door, and he asks him if he's a Jedi, which is like, well, duh, son, but sure. And then there's Luke, pulls his cloak back, his hood, and there he is in all of his 1983 glory. And I was just, my heart was racing, just chills throughout. I didn't cry, but I was like I was so enthusiastic. I was ecstatic. My childhood was just rushing through my veins. And we go through the scene, and there's the parting of the adopted father and the adopted son. And of course that gets a little bit emotional, but I didn't shed a tear. And then they get into the turbo lift, and it was just a perfect conclusion to a superior, and dare I say, perfect season of Mandalorian. It was just top notch. Now, I will throw one more cherry on top. After that experience, I didn't go back and watch the full episode again, but one night I was about to go to bed, and I was just surfing on YouTube, and I happened to get a recommendation for like a streamer's montage of reactions to that sequence. You have all these experienced streamers who are very good at entertaining the audience and stuff, and they're from different countries as well, and they're watching this scene, and this montage is put together interspliced with all their different reactions as the scene plays out. And then we get to that moment where they realize exactly who it is, where it's confirmed, where it's proven, and you see Luke going to town, and they get emotional, and they're giving off a yawp. And in that moment, as I'm vicariously experiencing it with them, I just broke down in tears. I just started weeping. It was just this flood of emotion. And you're absolutely right, Alton. That hallway scene has been compared by many to the infamous scene of Vader at the end of Rogue One. And it was that very same experience, right? They set it all up. You know what the history is. You know what the timeline is, but you don't necessarily know exactly what's going to happen next. And then they drop that breath, and then that of the lightsaber coming to life, and then just lighting the hallway red. That scene is a perfect but emotionally equivalent foil to the scene with Luke. When Vader's doing it, you have this thrill, but it's a thrill based on dread. And in a way, secretly, maybe not so secretly, under the surface, you're rooting for Vader because you want to see him in all his glory. And that was the best live action Vader we had ever seen. And it was like less than 90 seconds long. And we got the exact same thing with Luke Skywalker.
I firmly believe that hallway scene from Rogue One is, and this is my personal opinion, I understand there are a lot of people that are going to disagree with me on this. I believe that hallway scene is one of the defining pieces of cinema, in my opinion. Because you, without any real dialogue, perfectly establish who this character is, what they're about, why you should be absolutely to your core terrified of what's about to happen. And it also cements the importance of what that team is trying to accomplish, because they know they are dead the moment the lights go out. They know there is no getting out. but in the face of ultimate fear that we, the viewers, are also experiencing simultaneously. You're watching something critical, crucial, and important happen. And you know, the impact of the scene in The Mandalorian with Luke is slightly different. I don't believe that it was executed as technically perfectly as the Rogue One scene was, but nevertheless, the general flow and emotion and what it does and what it establishes is still checking all those boxes for me.
I felt I would say, you know, I was about to say in equal parts, but maybe they're not equal parts. Let's work through this for a second. You know, the Vader scene in Rogue One, there was the thrill of dread. And I totally hear what you're saying, because we know that Leia receives the stolen plans. We know that scene will answer the question, how many rebels does it take to unscrew the galaxy, right? Because as Vader's walking through, you see rebel after rebel give their life to pass a floppy disk so that they can get it where it needs to go. And you hear them yelling desperately, take this, go, 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 you know? And so you have this dread, and then there's like this relief at the end when they get through, even though you know that's what's going to happen, but you also have a brand new or maybe a renewed appreciation for the severity, the viciousness, the ferocity of Darth Vader, of the turned Anakin. And then you take that and compare it to the Luke Skywalker scene. There is this jubilance that comes with seeing Luke in his prime doing things we never got a real chance to see him do at that level. And instead of going from a place of excitement to dread to relief, you go from a place of dread to excitement to relief. And there's, like you said, you know, Luke brings a calm, a strength of calmness and peace that you know it's going to be okay. And Vader brings that dread of nothing's going to be okay as long as he's on the board.
Well, and this is, I think this is how amazing Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are in developing this storyline. So, you know, look at Rogue One. It's pitch dark. We all have an innate fear of the dark. Okay, so that they're already foreshadowing what's going to happen. It's dark, it's scary, we're tense, and then we hear the breathing, and we all know what happens when we hear that breathing. That, you know, automatically our body. I mean, at least for me, this is what happened. Our body's tense. You know.
Yes.
Crimson blade ignites, and you see Vader standing there in his armor, and then everyone starts screaming and firing. Now, for my entire life, I have always gone, why are you firing your blasters at this guy? You guys are idiots. This is Darth Vader. Why are you even trying? Now, to be fair, I participated in the Void's Star Wars experience that they had.
Rest in peace, Void.
You know, we went through that. Me, Scott, and a couple other guys, we went through that. We get to there's a point, and it's almost identical. There's this dark hallway. You hear the breathing. You see the crimson blade come out. And I was one of those idiots that started firing. It's like almost instinct. I've never understood it until then. It's literally, I have to shoot or I die. And so it's just kind of panic. And I've never really understood that till actually being in that Void experience. But yes, they start firing and you just see him tearing through these guys. We've never seen Vader in this magnitude before on screen. You know, we've seen it in comic books, stuff like that, but it just didn't have the majesty it did in Rogue One.
Yeah.
You see him tear through there. You hear them screaming and yelling. You see the lights going off, the alarms. So all that was built up on terror. Then we get the flip side, like you guys have said, it was silence. There was no screaming. I mean, it was against, the Dark Troopers. They're droids. They don't scream. They don't panic. There's no worry. There's no alarms. And so it was, again, that calm reassurance you see as he's just going through and slashing at him and attacking. Even when the one grabs his arm and he just turns around and lightsabers through the arm. The other point where he crushes another one of them. And I think that's where that calm reassurance come from, is because we didn't see the panic. It was lit up. There wasn't the darkness. There wasn't, but they did foreshadow it really well. With Moff Gideon's face, where he's all smug and happy, and then he starts seeing things, and then you start seeing the uneasiness settle on him, to the point that he panics. But again, they're brilliant story crafters, the way they
Yes.
did things. They set up for potentially some really big conflict in season 3 because of Bo-Katan and Din and what he acquires. I really like the flashbacks, or not the flashbacks, the nod they had, because Pedro played a character in Game of Thrones.
He plays the Viper in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and he's supposed to go up against the mountains, and like, you should wear a helmet. And he's like, I shouldn't wear a helmet. Then he gets his head crushed in, and at this point, he's one of the Dark Troopers just pounding away at his head, but he's got the Beskar helmet, and it's nothing's happening. And so when I saw that, I just started laughing. That was fantastic.
Well, it was caving in the side of, it was caving in a wall of a spaceship, because his helmet wouldn't give way and the Dark Trooper wouldn't stop.
Yeah, and so I'm like, so this is these little nods. I love how they do those things. It's a little thing here and a little thing there where you're like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. So, and I think if 7, 8, and 9 would have been done that way, I think we wouldn't have such a divided fan base. I think that's the biggest problem.
If 7, 8, and 9 had been crafted by Filoni and Favreau, it would have been, it may have rivaled the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may have. And nothing against Abrams. I mean, Abrams did a good job, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure Abrams had to bow and.
Yeah. It was filmed by committee, which we've covered.
Yeah.
Alton, what's your comment though?
Well, so my thought is that we might need to do an episode very soon this year in which we discuss the implications of Mandalorian season 2, including the post-credits scene.
Oh yeah.
But also just talking about some of the rumor mill and things like that, of some of the implications of what had happened, because there had already been a rumor as Mandalorian was finishing development that they were unsure about how episode 9 was going to turn out. And there was a rumor that Kennedy was maybe going to get kicked out, and maybe they were going to find some way to whitewash the 7, 8, 9 and start fresh. After season 1 came out and was received so well, a lot of those rumors strengthened, and some of them got even much more specific. At this point, there's more interesting things to have. And I don't think that's an episode for today. We've taken a lot of time today.
Right.
But nevertheless, if you're listening to us now, first off, thank you, Mr. Filoni, and thank you, Mr. Favreau, for putting your heart and soul into this. We feel it, we recognize it, and we are so, so glad to be a part of Star Wars again.
I literally applaud them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said,
I want
Alton.
to throw one more thing in there. I want to say thank you for showing us a Boba Fett that is lethal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us a Boba Fett that does stuff.
I mean, he had a freaking staff and was taking out stormtroopers left and right. Now that is the Boba Fett we've heard of, we've wanted to see. I mean, we've seen it in the comics, we've read it in the stories, but we've never seen it on the screen. We just kind of seen him stand around and look intimidating and fall into a Sarlacc pit by getting hit by a blind guy. This really shows the Boba Fett that we've all known and loved, which just fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yes, no, I applaud their work on this. They did a great job in both season 1 and 2. I'm excited to see what they do with the rest of it. I mean, it looks like we were getting like 8 or 9 different Star Wars TV shows over a while.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Book of Boba, The Bad Batch. I know there's several more. Those are just the ones that are coming to mind. I mean, that's 5 right there with Mandalorian included in that. So I'm excited. I really am. I think as long as these guys and the directors they're bringing in under their guidance continue to bring us a product like this, we're going to have some fantastic Star Wars in the future. I mean, Bryce Dallas Howard, her father, Ron Howard, did Solo. She's done a fantastic job too.
Yeah, she is.
She has got an amazing eye as a director. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens. Yes, Grogu is gone for a while. That's okay. But I'm pretty sure they're going to come up with something else. This is going to be just as amazing.
Yeah.
So, all right. We've ate up a lot of time. We'll have some more awesome shows. We'll definitely have to do a conversation about that, as well as other great, fantastic topics in the geek universe. With that said, we're out of here.
Dungeon crawlers, welcome to the new year, and tell your story, whatever may come.
Hop onto the Discord server, join the conversation. We'll post a new question up there very soon. And always remember to be epic and don't suck.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.